using these in relation to Alison's question. Now, clearly, Jenny and Ruth and I are not going to have all of those questions in mind because there's too many of them. So I think, the way when I'm observing somebody working is that, I have a couple of sort of threshold things. And to be really honest, what I usually have in mind is, would I refer my grandma to your class? My grandma's actually dead, but I wouldn't, bless you, my nana. However, it's that principle of, is this person, would I feel comfortable with this person teaching my nana? Because I love my nana more than, and she's older and, not so robust and blah, blah, blah. Well, actually she's dead, but anyway, when she was alive. But the nana, it's the nana test. Everybody knows the nana test. Yes? Yes. The nana test. So the way I encapsulate all of that in my head is, would I feel comfortable with my nana? Or, insert whoever else that you care about who has, some particular needs to this person's class. And that's the thing. That's what this encapsulates in my head. However, that would only give you a little bit of feedback. So I have to have a little bit more differentiation in the nana test than just yes or no. So then these things come into play a little bit, and they help us structure our observations in a way that you can actually act on the feedback. Because feedback is only useful if you can if it goes back into the system to improve it. So that's recognizing that that's the nature of our feedback to you, is putting stuff back into the system so that you can act on it in a quality improvement kind of mechanism. That's what we do as organisms all the time. That's, to my mind, actually, that's what Golden Christ is all about. So these are some of the things that we might consider. However, some of them clearly are not relevant, particularly the back page around running a business, because we're not evaluating that in this classroom thing. Which I guess gets me to what I should have said first up, is that we are trying to offer you a way of feedback in this program that is congruent with the method. Sometimes people feel that this level of paperwork is not congruent to the method, but Jenny and Zoran and I are of a mind that we can do it in a way that's congruent with the method, so we're keen to hear your feedback. And that we want you to partner with us, obviously, in this feedback. So we are interested in the ways that you want to provide evidence of your personal evaluation of yourself. And that our, so-called evaluation of you actually starts with your evaluation of you, and it ends with your evaluation of you, with a bit of us in the middle. Does that make sense? So that's the deal, that this is a partnership evaluation where the sole responsibility, the primary responsibility actually resides with you, not with Jenny and me and Zoran and Ruth who's coming. Okay, is that a clear partnership? Which is not letting us off the hook, because we are the ones who have to sign off with OzTab that you are, you've met the competences as we perceive it. So we have to justify the evidence that you provide us to the accrediting body. So that's, there is an element of bureaucracy about this. However, we are trying to get the responsibility for you, which means, therefore, that it's there is an inherent power thing in, accrediting somebody, but we want to share that power with you as much as we can, realistically. Okay. So, to that extent, then these forms should be seen as self-evaluation, and that you are letting us know where you feel you're at. Now, therefore, they're not something about, well, I'd better tick that I agree that I've got all these things because this is what I'm going to pass if I do that. If we do that, then we've lost the point of this opportunity for feedback. So please don't see them like that, but see them as a genuine opportunity for you to self-evaluate. So you've got two, and you're going to take them home tonight and fill in one about where you are right now, honestly, where you are right now, And then we want to collect that as data, don't we? So they will come back to us. Yeah.
You say disagree to all of those things, we're going to have to repeat the first year and a half and teach it again. But yeah, our planning is based around your needs. So yeah, try and be accurate.
Yep. Zoran loves to collect data. I do too. I just pretend I don't. And actually what we'd really like to do is do a before and after. So how you feel tonight and then how you feel, say, next Monday.
Yeah, so maybe just a different colour on Monday, and then we'll collect one and you can pick one for your own reference to look back on.
Oh, okay, we'll do it that way. Yeah, so one's, okay. All right, so today, if you've got a colour pen tonight, go home, fill it out as it is today. Yeah, if you haven't got a different colour pen. But see, I do like people to be blinded to their pre-intervention baseline. I would kind of like you to fill in how you are feeling tonight and give that to us so that you can't look at it. And then we'll give it, and then you fill in the second sheet and then we'll swap over so that you can have a record. Because it would be really nice for you because you might just be tempted to move everything a little bit more to the right or a little bit more to the left. But for it to be really kind of spontaneous, unless you can actually remember all those, good luck. Yeah. Yeah. 85% hot dogs. HDs, high distinction hot dog, 85%. Academic joke. Not funny. All right, so let's do it this way. So tonight, fill it in, put your initials on it, unless your initials are the same as somebody else, and hand them up. And we're going to keep them. Keep the spare copy at home. And you're going to fill in the spare copy next Monday. And in the meantime, we'll have recorded just anonymized data, your baseline, because Zoran likes to do those little bar graphs. So cute. And then we can show you what's changed. Now, and the thing is, why I don't want you to see what you said this week is because sometimes, as you know, awareness sucks. And you don't know you don't feel confident in something until you actually do it and you really feel unconfident. And you can actually go backwards. And that's really fine. You just need to know that. So that's why I would write, let's do it that way. Have I made myself remotely clear? Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So if there's let's go through the questions. Now, I'm not going to give you the answers to some of this, but I'll just tell you what they mean, because these are based on the international competencies, aren't they? Tweaked. Yep. So there's an amalgam of there's various sets of competencies that have come out from various international groups, and this is the Zoran's sort of coalescing of them. So just working through front page, anything that you don't understand the meaning of. I don't want to rewrite a Feldenkrais textbook in my answers. Yes. Yep. Yeah, good point. So answer this. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yep. Yep.
there is a heading on that section that talks about being a self-directed learner.
Yeah. So those first three, 3.1, 3.2 and 3.3, are your ATM practice as a student.
I think that whole section is about yourself.
Yeah, it's a teacher. Yeah. Yeah, that's in my ATM teaching, you're right. So I would say that it's 1, 2 and 3 that are about your own personal practice. And I think all the others I would answer as a teacher, ATM teacher, unless you can see anything more.
And then section 7 is clearly about being a teacher.
Yeah. So yeah, just to make it really simple, I would say answer them all from the point of view of being an ATM teacher, the competencies or practice standards of being a teacher, apart from 3.1, 2 and 3. And then it's absolutely about your being a student. Yeah. Just for clarity. I mean, these two things always bleed into each other in reality, but in practicality terms, I think that's if we make it that distinction. Yeah. So any other words, phrases that don't make sense? I know the dispositions of an empowered learner and can relate them to ATM practice. So what does a really great student look like? What are the features? How can you if I'm sitting here and I'm looking at all you and I'm going, you are a really great learner and you are really not. What am I seeing that's different? Because she's asleep. No, she could be consolidating her learning, you see. That can't do anything. Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. Yes, I think the dispositions are about what I observe, and the capacities are the future pacing of what people can have as empowered learners. Maybe? Jenny, looking at you?
Yeah, they're not words I probably would have chosen, but maybe, I mean, in other contexts, the competencies are divided into skills and knowledge. So it might be useful to think of one of those about what do you know and the other one about what do you do.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and I think it's, those first ones are about
Yep.
Yep. Huh? Say it again, sorry. Yep. Yeah, so I'll repeat the question because I suppose we're not recording any of this and this all drives Zoran crazy. So yes, so your question is, how do we observe the dispositions and or features of an empowered learner in many lessons? So it is. There are some situations where you cannot. Yeah, just it's coming.
The questions they might
The
ask you at the end of the lesson, the their level of engagement, all of that kind of thing you can see, even though you might not see what's going on in their mouth for that particular example of that particular lesson. But you can see all the other things. That's actually their disposition. Yeah. It's their attitude that they're bringing. That's what disposition is. Yeah. It's not about what you observe. It's you're observing their attitude that they're bringing to the learning situation. Assuming that an empowered learner is an extrovert. No, it's assuming that an empowered learner is engaged and they're demonstrating their engagement in some way. It doesn't have to be an extrovert way. Yeah, I can see both. They're experimenting, they're doing, they're moving. You can see the little, like if somebody's lying here and they're, moving something and, whatever, you can see that they're actually experimenting with something, they're engaged in it, they're thinking about it, they're trying a few alternatives of their own, that kind of thing. Then they don't have to be an extrovert to do that. They're just doing it quietly for themselves. But you can see that's the attitude that they're bringing to the learning. Yeah. I think both points are really, really important to recognise, that we can be tricked by the extrovert into thinking that they're more engaged than the introvert. So that's where this requires discernment. Like, I can discern, so that you, as you get to know your students in your class, or even if you don't know them well, that you have that realm of possibilities in your mind, that for someone who's extremely introverted, that there might be just a fleeting eye contact about, I got that. And that for them means they're really engaged. Whereas for the extrovert, they might come up and hug you and tell you that's the best thing they've ever done and, you are fantastic or whatever. And that's that's when you discern their level of engagement, maybe. I mean, I'm being sort of facetious, but so that's the discernment piece, about recognising that the way people manifest an attitude of engagement, as an empowered learner, is going to be on quite a broad spectrum. I mean, think about the way that you all engage. It's very different. I'll give you an example of one of the most discombobulating students I've ever taught in a training program, and I won't say where it was, but let's just say it's not in this country and not in this group. Really tall guy, he's like 6'7". So an imposing presence, and he rocked into the training sort of 3 days late, and he came down. He got down onto the floor late that day as well, lay on the ground like this, and lay like that for the whole day during every ATM. And this is like, we're doing 4 ATMs a day. Never unlocked. Then the next day he would do maybe 1 or 2 of the instructions and then go back into the arms folded, legs crossed position. So what am I picking up there? What am I discerning there? Well, I was beside myself at the end of the day going, what the hell, who is this guy? Like, he's just rocked up. Is he just a random off the street? So you would have to be blind Freddy to not pick out that there's an issue here with engagement. However, my strategy was to watch him, see what happened, and he gradually, literally unfolded himself and uncrossed himself. And I never actually had to have the conversation with him about becoming an empowered learner, because that was just his process of getting into that space. Do you know what I mean? So there's this, so I'm certainly not saying that I'm hugely observant, because like I said, you have to be blind Freddy to not realise this was. And so when I asked around and asked the assistant, who obviously knows the group well, what's going on with this guy, it was of no surprise to me that someone was paying for him to do the training because I thought it would be good for him. So he wasn't there because he wanted to be. He was there because someone had told him he should do it. Now, to his absolute credit, he does give it a go and he unwinds, and then he starts demonstrating the attributes of an empowered learner. And it's the things that you talk about, like literally his arms come down and he stops crossing his legs. He then starts doing a few movements and he does more and more repetitions as the days go on. And then he starts asking questions. And clearly he's a very introverted guy. I mean, he's a scientist.
So, you know, this is he's a total nerd. I hope he's, anyway. These stay intramural, don't they, these recordings? So, like I said, it's not in this country, just in case you put these on YouTube. So the features of an empowered learner started manifesting. And then, of course, when he had developed some trust in the room, so I actually thought he was new to the training program, but actually he's not. And this is what unfolds every segment. This was his second segment or something, and this is his pattern. That it takes him a long time to get into that, what Zoran's calling an empowered learner kind of thing. He never stops being an introvert at all, but it just slowly, it's on his baseline that I observed him starting to demonstrate the attributes of an empowered learner. Yeah, that's a long story to illustrate a small point. Yep, that's right. Yep. And in fact, he had, so what he did was, this process is actually immensely painful for him because he realises that he's quite the kinesthetic klutz. You know, he's a big, tall guy who's been in a lab probably most of his life. That he really needs this work. So he actually came and asked for an extra FI, which again is an attribute of somebody who is not necessarily looking for attention, but like, I need something, you know, I need more information. And then we could have a conversation about just how little he senses when he's doing ATM. And so therefore he now has the capacity to learn more because he's recognised where he's coming from in a way. Does that help at all?
Could another way, like looking at what an unempowered learner might look like too, is, you know, you could get the opposite where someone is constantly going, I can't do it, tell me how to do it, please show me, you know, like they're wanting it externally and trying to get it right, and they feel like they're a failure if they don't, all that kind of stuff. So our role is to empower that person to go back and have a go. There is no wrong, there is no right way, you know, like all that kind of stuff.
Good point.
Well.
Really good point. Yep. So that kind of feed me student is not an empowered learner. That might look like they're really engaged, but it's in a really passive kind of way, which is not what we mean by, you're right, it's not an empowered learner. They want to learn, but they want to learn in a way that's probably not what we're offering.
Can you also sort of go to the other extreme? Someone
Speak to the box.
have someone in a class who just does all the moves, like they're doing exercise.
Yeah.
Oh, this is easy. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
Without any awareness of what they're doing.
Yeah, and in that instance, they're empowered, but they're not a learner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the words are quite important then, aren't they? The empowered, or in my language, I would say self-efficacy, so that the responsibility for learning, the power for learning resides in themselves, not in the teacher necessarily. And then the learner aspect. Yeah, because that windmill person, and you'll get them, they're not learning anything, but they're empowered to do exercise, and that's fine. If they want to pay you money to come and do exercise and have a gym class, fine. It's just, don't write Feldenkrais on their invoice, right? You know, I was going to say something rude. I was going to use the P word, but that would be rude. Careful. Yeah, whoops. That's right, yeah. And that's a fantastic point, because it's the journey is the capacity thing. Yeah. You know, that's the capacity, is recognising people's capacity no matter where they're from. You know, if the attributes are where they are now, what they're featuring now, I think that the capacity is being able to see people's potential, you know. That having that kind of open mind, that's the way I would interpret those things.
That's almost about being fairly patient as a practitioner with people.
Yeah.
And recognising that everybody comes with a different journey and so don't write somebody off just because they are introvert or extrovert or whatever.
Or crossing their legs and folding their arms and lying like a great big long string bean on the floor. Yeah, exactly, because I did. And it's, you have to, that's exactly the right thing. Suspend judgment.
Yeah, just recognise that, and everybody has a different experience. And so, like you said about that guy, that everyone's baseline is different. So not everybody will achieve to where you think they might be, but that might actually be a really big step for them.
Yep. That means he can lean over the microscope a bit easier or something, or not break any more Petri dishes, or I don't know what the hell, or whatever. It's just
If you had someone coming like that it wouldn't be quite like that, but extreme to a class where they're really, like, would you just kind of say, who's a passive speaking learner?
Yeah.
No, wouldn't you just kind of like maybe check out with them, are you okay, how you going or something?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, in that instance, because it's a training program, and I'm new, all the group know each other, and this is like segment 5. He joined late, so I can go to the equivalent of Jenny and say, do I need to do anything? So that I don't just rush in where angels fear to tread and step on someone's process. Because, in the middle of a training program, he's clearly in the middle of a process. So, it's a different scenario. But if it's your class, then absolutely, you don't go and go, combative or you're doing it wrong. We're just saying is how you're finding things. Are you whatever. Just some open-ended question. Jenny will talk about that. Alison, you had your hand up. So more questions about these things. These are good questions. It's making me think, because I just read things and go, yeah, whatever. Honestly, I read this stuff and I skim through it. And this is great discipline for me. Like, this is really, really great discipline for me, because it's not the way I usually operate. So it's fantastic. So I love working with Zoran and Jenny. Like, big time. It's fantastic.
So just on the point that Anna was making, under 7, which is facilitating embodied learning. So there's a fair bit of the use of the word self-use.
Yep.
And it would be possible to interpret that as, in a sense, how I conduct myself internally. And you might be part of that about how you hold yourself and how you project your voice. But I'm just thinking about the points that Anna's making about, like how, to what extent do the set under 7, say you've got psychological, social and physiological conditions conducive.
Yep.
So would you wrap into that in terms of, I suppose, like social conditions, really? That there aren't, none of those expressions exactly pull out for me the kind of point Anna's just asked, which is, do you know when you might need to engage with a student and how you should engage with that student?
Oh, okay.
Because they're not, and I think exactly that sort of circumstance, everybody's talked about how it will come up. You'll be looking at somebody and thinking, are they asleep? Are they listening? Are they engaged? How could I engage them more?
Yep.
I'm not sure which of those set through 7, and others might have question. A view about which one of those incorporates that dilemma and skill. It's a skill, isn't it, you need to develop?
Yeah, and how to, so in a way that sort of, in a way, the intervention that Anna's talking about isn't...
How do you do it well and not badly? Because you can imagine circumstances in which you might jump in too early.
I think...
Sorry, is it maybe over the page? So I don't know.
It's probably more over the page.
Sorry, it is. Yeah, I'm able to effectively manage a group of people when teaching.
And to monitor participants when teaching, communicate factors that facilitate. See, I want to say facilitate, but felicitate participants' learning. Yeah. And some of those, I can communicate which factors indicate how participants are progressing in an ATM lesson. And so it's probably more there.
Yeah, sorry, I should have gone over.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Because, I mean, the environmental conditions, so you're right, let's just go through the 7, 1, 2, 3 and 4 are all about your own self-use. And then 7.5, the environmental conditions, it's literally the space that you're providing people and the warmth and the lighting and the noise factor and all that sort of stuff. And then the physiological somatic, well, physiological could also be related to warmth and so forth, and somatic, but that's the sort of, having the props and the, to enable people's bodies to be in a state where they can be receptive. Then the psychological conditions, what we talked about this morning about feeling safe, that sort of safety, and how you create a sense of safety in a room. So, and that can be various ways, environmental things, but also around your manner. So I tell you something for nothing, my sense of humour can make people feel unsafe. So, it can. If I am really full on, fun, doing the thing, doing my shtick, it's not conducive to safety and good learning. It's very entertaining, but it's not good for learning because it brings people out of themselves and they're too busy laughing and being entertained. So, think about, all of those different things that work about a safe environment. Quite apart from just being frankly menacing or people being, creepy, that would be another safer environment. I can't think of too many people who are just creepy, but, that would be that. And then the social conditions that, that people feel safe, feel comfortable in the social milieu. Now, a lot of, because I only do FI, I don't teach regular ATM classes because of travel and whatnot. I refer a lot of my clients to my colleagues' classes, and probably 50% of them are not ready because of the nature of their disability and impairments to enter the social situation of a class. They won't do it. Right, so you've got to be aware of that. This is the social aspect of these classes. Even if you don't have I'm not even talking about having a cup of tea afterwards, but just the sheer social thing of going to a room with other people and lying there and not even talking to them, not even talking about that, but just being there is too much for them. It's just too much. So, and that's pretty profound, isn't it? But like I said, 50% of my clients, no, not ready. Partly, it was both. The physiological means that they would be worried about their pain levels, and their somatic stuff, the body sort of stuff. And that would be true for some of those people, that they just think, I won't go to a class because I don't, I'm going to be in too much pain or something like that. But that it gets so intermingled with the social. Body, but physiological is at the cellular level, like pain. Physiology means cellular.
Also, too, Susan, the social aspect would also include cultural sensitivities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good point. Yep. So just, in brackets, put cultural there as well, because that's really important. Because, coming in and lying on the floor, maybe just so culturally out of kilter.
But also having mixed classes.
Mixed classes, yeah. And if a woman's in hijab, she might lie on the floor in hijab, but she might not lie on the floor. I don't know. It's just never come up for me. These sorts of things, or maybe, but that would be more the mixed class stuff. But maybe she could take off the hijab if it was women only or something like that. But so, there's a lot of sort of stuff to unpack in that social stuff. Any other questions about any of the wording? Box. You don't, there's no should. As my sister says, don't should on yourself.
Okay. Pedagogical.
What number?
Number 6.1.
Oh, yeah.
I know
pedagogical precepts.
Yeah.
Fundamental to ATM practice. Oh, Zoran, if you're listening to this, that is so you.
I know. I'm glad he's not listening.
So the pedagogical precepts, so pedagogical meaning sort of teaching, the academy of teaching and learning, if you like. Precepts, we always joke about whether it's percepts or precepts, and we look them up and they can be both. But it's the sort of rules. Yep.
Rules. Can you give me an example that makes sense of it?
A fundamental precept of ATM practice is to go slow.
Oh.
Fundamental. And small, and within ease. And it's based on pedagogical precepts in that it's a learning thing. If you read the book, the ATM book, he goes on and on and on about slowing things down so that you can pay attention, become aware, and then change it. And if you don't slow it down, you can't become aware. So it's a teaching requirement. It's a requirement for learning, I should say, rather than teaching, is to go slow, simplify it, do it with ease, etc. Yes, only one? You disappoint me.
Oh, do you want the book?
Who is
Oh, the box, Sue.
Thing about the language.
Oh.
So number 1 would be like just got no idea. And 10 obviously would be like, yeah, I've got it to get together. So 5 would be developing skills.
Yep.
But still need some work.
Yep.
And then somewhere in between for where you think you're at.
Yep.
Okay. Sure.
Yep. 5 could also be interpreted as I don't know.
So 5 could also be?
Don't know.
Okay. I would have said 1 would have been I don't know.
Okay. Oh, you don't know that you don't know. One to me is you know that you don't know.
Oh, I see. So 1 is you don't know. You know, yeah, okay.
Because you disagree.
You guys are going to have so much fun putting this together.
Because the statement is, I know the essential aims of ATM practice. Disagree, that means I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, depending on the way it's worded.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Oh, maybe we should just come and sit.
Sorry, 10 is 10 is I know that I know. It's conscious competence. No, because you know that you know. I agree that I know it. Oh, okay. If you're not sure, put 5. Put 5. Because it's emerging.
Okay.
You know that you know that you don't not know. Oh, look. Zoran!
Where's Zoran? Essential aims. Could you give me an example? I'm really helpful to just...
So help. Let's have some essential aims of ATM practice. Why might somebody come to an ATM class? What might their aim be? Or our aim? Hopefully they're congruent in some way. What's potential aim for an ATM class? Yep. Move with greater ease. Move out of pain. Moving better. Feeling more comfortable, curiosity, want to learn how to learn. By mistake, they thought it was a Pilates class and they want a flat stomach. Oh boy, have they fucked up. Any of those things. So an aim for an ATM class is not to have a flat stomach. Just putting it out there. Say that up front. If you're here to get a flat stomach, go next door. It's not here. Next door is the clickbait on all of the any time I jump on the internet. I swear I've never clicked on those things, but I always get the flat stomach clickbait. They must know that I'm a middle-aged woman, and that's what most middle-aged women want, is a flat stomach. Anything else? So there is a bit of recursiveness in here, like things like, I can discern whether students are engaging in the lesson in a manner that's congruent with constructive learning attributes described by Feldenkrais. In a way, I would see that as similar to knowing the disposition, or can discern the dispositions of an empowered learner, for example, but that's okay. You can deal with redundancy.
So Susan, you're doing constructive learning attributes, are you? What they are?
3.6, to my mind, reads very similarly to 3.9. That could just be me. Okay, yeah, another one. Another question.
Sorry. Can 7, 28 and 29, compositional design and functional aims.
Okay, so congruent with its compositional design. So compositional design could be something like that you teach a lesson on one side only. So that there's a design feature in the way the lesson is composed, so that you want to really highlight the difference between left and right. And so you stay congruent to that. Yeah, you don't start messing around with lefts and rights. If the compositional design is to really hone in on one side, so that at the end, just towards the end of the lesson, then you flip it and you do the other side in as mental imagery, for example. You stick to that. You're congruent with that, which is, and you don't flip around and even up like I did this morning. Yeah. Good maxim. Do you know what? I have been a practitioner for a very, very long time, and I'm here to say I have never made up an ATM, ever. I see no need to, because I still haven't taught all the ones that are available. So, I have no need to make any more up. Now, I'm probably the only trainer in the world who doesn't, and maybe that means I'm a failure. I don't feel like a failure. I just don't. It's not like I don't mess around with them or, take bits out and put here and there and everywhere else. But I can honestly say I've never made one up from scratch because I don't see any need. Why? The master was a master. And, it's just so much to learn. So don't feel obliged. There's so much scope to be creative in what we've been given. But, and I'm not saying that to not go and create your own stuff, feel free, but anyway, another question. Oh, so sorry. And then 7.229, congruent with its functional aims. So the functional aim is the sort of the what's it for. So, for example, this morning, the head circles lesson, there's a whole bunch of fours around that. And I gave you some of the fours at the end. So for some people, getting more rotation in their spine means that they can take longer steps. They get more arm swing and they can take longer steps because they've got more ability to twist in their spine. But other people, it was opening up the space above their head. So it was about being able to gaze at the stars, the four. That's the functional aim. Now, you have to hold on to those functional aims pretty darn loosely because watching you guys all get up, you all had slightly different functions in mind that you were kind of integrating. And I was watching you really carefully to see what emerged. Now, I can have a guess because I know the lesson, but I was watching to see what you did, and then I very cunningly followed up on that. I'm not original. Isn't there a one? That's a principle.
Because so do you need to be a bit careful? I think we talked earlier, and Linda and I have certainly discussed this about, and it came up this morning, about to what extent might you give as part of your wisdom, Sue, at the beginning of the lesson, this class today is about, you know, and being but you might need to be a bit cautious about the extent to which you might set up expectations in your students that they're going to feel like a particular thing at the end of the lesson, or better in a particular way, or.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I'd hold on to expectations extremely lightly.
Yeah. So in thinking about how you might answer being congruent with its functional aims, I think you've just suggested that you need to imagine that those people could think about those functional aims quite broadly. Is that right? And they might be different for different people in the class.
And I'd be pretty hesitant about stating them up front.
Yeah.
In fact, I probably wouldn't state a functional aim up front because it's really nice for it to be emergent.
Is that even if you were, again, we've talked before, maybe when we've been thinking about kind of marketing for Feldenkrais or whatever, like you're working with a particular group. So I think, Linda, we talked about bird watchers, you know. So you might want to be able to say as your general, you know, for your bird watchers, that they're going to feel more comfortable. Sorry, Linda, I don't know, but, you know, looking up into the sky or something.
You can do that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's in a marketing thing. You can set up you can of course set up an expectation around that.
I mean, you might not link a particular lesson to say, well, at the end of today's lesson, you're all going to be looking up.
Yeah, because actually for bird watching, you might want to start with the pelvic clock, and they'll go, "What the hell?" But then you might finish with some head circling once they've got the pelvic clock, because I don't know if you noticed, but the head circles actually are much easier to do if your pelvis is free to move in your hip joints. So that's, again, another reason why you wouldn't give it straight away. But if you're creating a series of lessons for bird watching, you'd be very well placed to start with the pelvic clock in sitting and lying, getting them mobile on top of their hip joints so that then they do have a stable base that they can open their chest out and gaze at the birds. So if you set up an expectation that they do the pelvic clock and they go, what the hell's that got to do with bird watching? I think it's a different kind of bird watching. Just saying. Yeah. Oh, we had a naughty group in Adelaide, and I tell you what functions they had. The women, they used to go down, we were at this fantastic venue on the beach in Adelaide, and there was a bar downstairs, and they'd go down drinking champagne every afternoon. They come up with some stories about what this was good for. Just saying. Anyway, any other questions about the wording? Jane? Box, you two. Playing ping pong.
Okay. Might have missed this, but done so many ATMs, concluding an ATM, and there's two things. I know different ways of concluding an ATM.
Yep.
And the other one is, where is it? Well, that's the main one anyway. There's a couple of them. I can't find it right now. But is that just an example of that? Would be scanning and realising that your lumbar spine might be flatter than it was before, so that people are realising that movements have made a difference.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you mean.
Yep. So
I know more than I thought I knew.
You do. You know heaps more. So it could be a scan. It could be the reference movement.
Language.
Could be a test movement, getting up to stand and walk. All of those ways of concluding a lesson.
And almost a suggestion of what they do later.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
How it helps them, like a in psych language, it's post-hypnotic suggestion.
Absolutely.
When they get to such and such, will this help? Or, okay. All right.
Yep. Notice your shoulder blade when you're brushing your teeth tonight. You know, notice as you're brushing your teeth, does your right shoulder come forward, and where does your ear go? You know, after today's lesson, that sort of stuff.
So how you integrate?
Yeah, integrating as well. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to hope I don't hit someone on the head.
Is it like common or not, like possible that sometimes an ATM teacher may give like homework or something to do with a lesson just to reinforce learning? And do you personally think that's a empowering thing to do?
Yeah. again, I don't, because I don't teach regular ATM classes anymore. But when people ring me up for an FI and they're new, that's part of my preamble is I will require you to do homework. I want a commitment from you that you will, because I can't see people more than once a fortnight because I haven't got many slots. Yeah. So they have to do something in between. And I think it's the same with ATM, is to give them possibilities of what to do, because we know that helps the integration. So an example would be, like notice, with this right shoulder coming forward and, your ear coming to your shoulder, notice that when you're brushing your teeth. So, trying to link something that they've become aware of in the ATM with a real life situation. Yeah. It could be really open, and you could say, so notice how your shoulders feel when you're doing anything.
And about maybe a formal like movement practice?
Yeah, I do. I'll write down a little mini bit of what I want them to practice. Like I'll just write down a little bit. So a few reminders about what, say, the pelvic clock. But again, because mine's an FI practice, I've got a Dropbox and I've got ATMs in there, and I actually send them a link and say, I want you to do this lesson for homework.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that it's, and the reason is because or I ask them to go to an ATM class. I am such a fan of ATM. I mean, FI, all very well and good. It's lovely. But where the real learning happens is ATM. The longer I do this work, FI it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's fantastic, lovely, get up, walk away. ATM, it's slow, but that's where people really learn how to learn. Beautiful. I love it. And I don't teach it. Go figure. They can zone out. Yeah. They can. Yeah, exactly. And in an FI, they can be passive.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas an ATM, when they change, they own it because you haven't touched them. You go, nothing to do with me, mate. If you change, that's you. That's all you. Take all the credit. I'm just the talking head. It's fantastic. Do it. Oh, that's okay. Do you think anything else has been on track today?
No. So I'm just interested if you have a more straightforward answer or easy way of explaining why Feldenkrais is a method and not a concept.
Oh, okay. It's a method because it's got some absolutely clear strategies and tactics. It's the operationalizing of learning. So it's absolutely an approach, not a construct. Because a construct would simply be, it would stay in the head, in the brain, and be a mindfuck. Whereas we absolutely, we operationalize learning by giving it a set of strategies and tactics. Go slow, use feedback, go slow, make it small, do a variation, compare this, compare that. And that's the operationalizing of learning, and it's exactly why it's a method, as in an operational thing rather than a philosophy. I mean, there is a philosophy behind it, and there's constructs to support it. However, it is the operationalizing of those constructs, that's what we offer. And that's what's quite unique to this method, actually, because it's so grounded. Here's learning. You just did it. You feel this? That's learning, as an operation. It's the most pragmatic thing ever. Which is bizarre, isn't it? Because it's so hard to talk about, but it's so pragmatic. That's why it's hard to talk about. Oh, now, okay, so what I'm picking up in the room is a little bit of drooping of the eyelids, which means you've got to do something. All right, so I'm giving you the meta about what I'm seeing as the person in charge of the room about when you need to move. So it's 10 to 3, so water in, water out, 5-minute break. Put these little things away. If there's any other questions, catch Jenny or I, and if we think they're ubiquitous, we'll put them on tape later.